Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and Commissioners Town Meeting for July, or June. No, it is July. Sorry, I'm right there, June. Bring this one back over. July 11th, 2023. We are being recorded. Call to order.
Would you like a roll call?
Yeah, roll
Okay.
call to order and roll call.
Commissioner Braun?
Yeah.
Commissioner Pearson?
Here,
Commissioner Kleiner?
Here.
Let the record show you have a quorum.
may we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll bow your head for a moment of silence, please pray for all our first responders, all of our law enforcement, all of our military. Please keep everyone safe, and may all your families have a safe vacation this summer. Okay. Amend the agenda. Town Administrator?
Yes, as we have talked about over the last week, we want to amend the agenda that was originally submitted to include a modification to Resolution 2023-10. So you would, if you're good with that, we will add that discussion to the agenda.
I'm good. How about Commissioners?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, Town Administrator. The consent agenda?
All right, so the next item you have, and again, for people out watching the video, there's a mechanism in which things that are essentially de minimis in nature, so to speak, or not that big a deal, you can approve them by one simple vote. And the items get covered under the consent agenda. At any given time, an elected official can ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda if they want to have a lot more conversation about it, or if it's something that they're not in agreement with and they know that they would want to vote in the negative, they would have it removed from the consent agenda so it doesn't eliminate all the other items from being voted on. It's sort of the motto of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So on the consent agenda, you have the approval of the June 13th, 2023 town meeting video summary, a listing of the upcoming town meetings, which are August 8th and September 12th, and then you have resolutions 2023-12, 2023-13, and 2023-14, and then a new edition, resolution 2023-10. Let's address 2023-12, 13, and 14 first. And these resolutions are resolutions that reappoint existing members of the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and Ethics Boards. These are individuals that serve for either a 3 or 5 year period, depending upon what the town code says. They have requested to be reappointed to the board. So by adopting those resolutions, they would formally be reappointed. And Resolution 2023-12 reappoints Susan Himmer to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Resolution 2023-13 reappoints Tom Hudson and Joanne Jameson to the Planning Commission.
Is it Tom or is it Paul?
I asked for verification. He likes Tom. We have been referring to him both ways, and as of the other day, he said he prefers Tom. And then Resolution 2023-14 reappoints Chip Slayball to the Board of Ethics, the Ethics Board. Now, Resolution 2023-10, this is one that we have been talking about, and this is essentially what we're legally calling a de minimis change to a resolution that you had already adopted in June. And I'm gonna bring it up on the screen so people can see what I'm talking about. In June of 2023, the town adopted its budget. And in adopting the budget, it has a resolution that sets all the tax rates and all the charges that are involved in the budget. And on the third page of that, there was language in there that talked about the collection of the town's debt service charge. And every property pays debt service based upon the number of dwelling units that they have on that property. And all the property owners get an annual tax bill for the debt service, but properties that have multiple dwelling units, we're mainly talking about some commercial places and apartment buildings and multifamily dwellings, they get a separate debt service charge. And in the past, we were collecting that on the utility bill, the monthly utility bill. The problem with that is it creates an inequity in the sense of some property owners are getting more of a discount for timely payment than others. And so the simple change that we are proposing to make is the last sentence in item number 6 that currently says properties with multiple dwelling units or commercial spaces shall be charged a debt service for each of these units that will be collected as part of the utility bill process. We're changing it to say that it's billed annually as part of the town's tax collection. All the same benefits for early payment of anyone paying their tax bill will still apply. None of that changes. We just want to eliminate that inequity that we realized was created by having some people charged on the annual tax bill and others charged on the utility bill. So if you folks are good with all 4 of those resolutions to include that minor change in the way we are billing the tax, it's not changing the tax rate, it's not changing who's accountable for the charge, it's just simply changing how we are collecting that charge. So that is your consent agenda.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any voices of opinion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
There's no nays. The consent agenda, the way it's listed, is approved. Unfinished business, there's none. New business, ordinance 2023-10, updated stormwater management code. Town administrator.
Yes, folks, we're all familiar with this ordinance initiative that the town has been doing, which is essentially to bring the oversight, review and inspection of stormwater management concepts into the town of Rising Sun as opposed to it being regulated by the county. That is something that is provided for by law. And we have adopted the original ordinance some 6 or 7 months ago. I think it was back in February when we did. And then MDE, although we had sent it to MDE, they came back after we adopted it and said, hey, we'd like to have these changes made to it, which we did. And then Cecil Soils, which is basically a local agency that actually works for the state in regulating sedimentation control, which is basically when you dig up the land and it rains, how is the dirt controlled on it? And so they asked us to put some language in our ordinance also. So what you have, I'm not going to read any of the boilerplate stuff. It's basically the same. This is all sort of elementary stuff that Cecil Soils had asked us to put in our ordinance, so I'm going to go to the actual ordinance itself. and you can see where there's no red, there's no changes. The first one is basically Cecil Soils wanted us to add, there's sort of like a fixed manual and date of when that manual was published. That could be updated from time to time. So they wanted language in there that said, and all subsequent revisions. You're gonna see that theme in a couple different locations. Here they asked us to add the 2011 Maryland Standard and Specifications for Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control. So we're proposing to add that. They asked us to add a definition for what an approved plan is, and then to add their name to the approving agencies, because by law, although Cecil Soils does not regulate stormwater, they do regulate soil and erosion control, which is part of the project of stormwater. So they asked us to add that language. They asked us to add language regarding a checklist, which basically anyone who served on the planning commission or involved in development knows that sometimes you will give somebody a checklist that says you approved as long as you meet this checklist. They wanted the word checklist added in there so it made it clear that when they give somebody a checklist, they have to comply with that checklist. They asked for a definition of what disturbed is, which this would trigger when you have to do stormwater management. In general forms, there are some items that don't make you have to do stormwater management or sedimentation control, but they wanted to have a definition for what disturbed was. Scrolling through it, I'm now on page 11. They asked for a definition of stormwater management plan and what that actually means. There aren't a lot of them in here. Again, the stuff I'm going through is already in the town's code. And I can summarize the rest of it by just saying that most of it is nothing more than having the word Cecil Soil Conservation District added to the language and references to the checklist. There really is no other substantial or substantive changes in terms of regulations. It's all just to recognize them in our code. So again, to keep everything moving forward, especially since we have development before you, I would ask that you consider to adopt this as an emergency ordinance, since it's basically just adding more nomenclature to the document here. So that is the summary of ordinance 2023-10.
Do we have a motion to accept or deny ordinance 2023-10, the updated stormwater management code?
I move to accept.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
No, it seems pretty clear.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's no negatives. The ordinance passes. Okay, staff reports. Town administrator.
I'm sorry, did you go by citizens' comment?
Oh,
That's because you're leaving the meeting, you did that.
citizens input.
Just for a minute, or two, three. Well, the reason I'm here is,
Can you state
Name
your
and
I'm sorry,
address.
yeah, and I know that. Skip Hughes, 36 West Cherry Street, Rising Sun. Can I go like that?
Look, we're a little
Sorry.
less formal than when Travis is
right.
here.
Okay.
Okay, Skip.
Okay, I'm here, and I know there's nothing you can do about what I want to talk about, but it's about the drag bingo show at the fire hall. I just think it's a blot and a cancer on our society and our area here to have that go on. You can't do anything about it. You could protest it, but I don't think you will. But it just shows, the creep of immorality coming into the area. drag shows have been around forever, but in this day and age, the drag shows and drag queens are a much bigger item than they used to be. They're trying to get into places where they never went to before, like the libraries that have story yards with little kids. I don't see anything good about that. They are part of the LGBTQ umbrella. I mean, men dressing as women, there's confusion there for especially young people and people, and a lot of people. They don't see anything wrong with it, but there really is something wrong with it. There's to me, a mental disorder or an emotional disorder for people to do that. In the Bible, the first thing God did, the first institution He created was marriage. In the beginning of Genesis, you go down to Romans chapter 1, and then talk about people that don't know anything about God, but they can't tell God. They can tell God by what's around them, what's made, what He made, by the things that were made, but they'll ignore that and make their own gods. Then they fall, and this is all in Romans chapter 1. Then they fall into where they doing the unspeakable things, which really is the beginning of homosexuality. And the reason they don't, the Bible isn't knocking homosexuality as the greatest sin, but it's the first sin because it tries to destroy the first thing God created was marriage. And when that stuff comes into the area, it just is a sign of immorality, and it's a sign of weakening of society. And again, you can't do anything about it, but the best thing you said was just to ignore it or not participate in it, but that allows it to happen anyway, without any protesting. So anyway, I would like to see something from the board that would protest it, at least not agree with it. Probably ain't going to happen, but that would be what I would like.
I can speak for the town.
Yeah.
We have no comment on it
Yeah, I know.
one way or another.
Right. I knew that when I
it's-
came in here.
It's not a town business issue.
Right.
But thanks for your opinion, Skip.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time and patience.
Okay, now I'm sorry. Now staff reports.
Yes, the only thing that I wanted to bring up is the mayor had asked me to comment on a lot of the questions that have been popping up regarding development in the town of Rising Sun, and to sort of update people on the difference in the way the town of Rising Sun is dealing with development from the way it did in the past. I think it's very important to recognize that, especially in obviously in our country, property owners have rights, and those rights have long been protected by court precedents, legal laws that are in place. And essentially what it comes down to is that a person can develop and utilize their land in any way that is consistent with laws that are on the books. And the laws that are on the books that regulate development are in large part zoning codes. And so in a zoning code, if a piece of land is zoned for residential, industrial, commercial, farming, whatever it is, that property owner has a lot of latitude in being able to develop that land for their benefit. And it becomes a very slippery slope when especially a government entity were to try to get in the middle and stop that. I know a lot of us have heard the term eminent domain, and eminent domain was a methodology that governments really used a lot in the past, in which to tell a property owner, we've got a better way to use your land than what you do, so we're going to basically take your land, we're going to pay you fair market value, but we're going to take it. Now, there's lots of strings that are attached to eminent domain, but a lot of court cases have gone through over the years, which basically reduces the latitude that governments have in taking somebody's land. The reason why I bring that up is that if you stop somebody from enjoying the benefit of their land, it's essentially just another way of taking their land. And they have the ability to sue you and seek significant monetary damage if you just arbitrarily decide that you're not going to let somebody do something with their land that the law says that they can do. Now, we all, and since I've been here, and people that are on this board, grew up and cut our teeth on what went wrong in the early 2000s. We could go down a lot of our developments and see what went wrong. But there's a lot of reasons why those things went wrong. And we have changed a significant amount of codes and ordinances and plans to put more control in the hands of the community. And when I use the word community, I think it's very important to always remember the community is the taxpayers and the residents of the town of Rising Sun. They are the first people impacted by this stuff. And so we, as staff and the elected body and the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals, are charged with protecting those residents to the best of our ability. And that's what we have done over the years, to put ordinances in place that require developers, and I did the post earlier, we're getting rid of irregular shaped lots where somebody comes in to put a deck on the back of their house, and because a past developer maximized every square footage of the land that they could develop, they have an irregular shaped piece of land that they have to pay $1,500 to get a variance every time they want to do something on their property. We've created a lot of open space. We protected green belts. Commissioner Braun and other members of the Planning Commission spent 3 years redoing the comprehensive plan. We did a whole study of looking where all the green belts are in and around the town of Rising Sun and protecting them so somebody can't just come in and strip mine that all to the ground. We basically said that if you're required to have open space, it can't be wetlands. It can't be something where people can't go walk because you can't build in a wetlands area. So you say, well, I'm going to declare that as open space. That has no value to our residents. So there's been a tremendous amount of changes made requiring bike paths, walkable pedestrian sidewalks, multiple ways out of a development, not accepting things like a traffic study from a developer and an engineer coming in and saying, we believe the traffic is going to do the following because we opened up an engineering manual and it says, in this case, apply these numbers. This elected body has pushed back on that as recently as the last year and a half to say we don't agree with that traffic study. That traffic study doesn't meet where the rubber meets the road in our town of the way we see traffic going. And so the elected body and the Planning Commission, they have held their ground and they have said to the developers, we recognize your right to develop, but when everybody's done developing and you go back to your corner of the world, it has to work for our residents. And so the mayor wanted me to make it clear that the elected body, they've all been affected by bad development. They all live essentially in developments that were not done right. They are paying attention to this, they are ready for this, and they put a lot of tools in the tool shed to try to get the best results we possibly can. Because at the end of the day, we can't stop the development, but we can make it work for us. So we invite anyone to reach out to us if you have a question, if you have a concern. All these development meetings are open to the public. You're entitled to come out, put your opinion out there. But we are working to make sure that we get the best results that we can out of this development.
Okay, thank you, Town Administrator. Chief Peterson's on vacation this week, but he did give me a few things to go over with you. The second vehicle is at the upfitters right now. getting the lights and equipment installed. The speed monitoring signs have shipped. And this is something, this next issue is going to be brought before the board, not tonight, but it is coming. The speed camera violations have exceeded the expected numbers. He is going to meet with the board to discuss an adoption and an implementation plan. I know personally, I have seen people come down Pearl Street at 60 miles an hour on that speed sign. They were put there for a reason, to control the speed, to see that you could see what you were doing. And as the data has come forth, it's showing that people didn't slow down. So just so you know, there could be some new things happening with them in the future, but that will be brought before the board. Okay, that's all for the chief. Mr. Town Attorney, do you have anything to bring before the board tonight, sir?
I do not have anything new for the board. As I told you last month, we did the tax sale, and so we are recording the tax sale certificate. We have had no feedback, fallout, or like it almost didn't happen. Nobody even said a thing. So the certificate's being recorded in the clerk's office, and now we're counting until December. So that's the big news, and we're obviously going to be moving ahead with a big planning commission meeting this coming Monday. So probably more reports after that.
Thank you, sir, and try to stay cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The Assistant Town Administrator, do you have something, ma'am?
I do, Augie, thank you. I want to start with projects that we had approved in this year's fiscal budget. The water tower, the maintenance of the water tower, and the painting of the water tower. We had a very productive meeting this week with the company. Josh and I met with them to go over what that would look like, what the timing would be, how long it would take, and when, if we get it put before you guys and you approve the contract, how long it would take to start getting the water tower on a maintenance program and getting it painted. So looking forward to that. Sewer plant, I'm going to have a meeting tomorrow with MES to look at that contract as well, and talk about improvements that we're going to be expecting over the next year with them. We, as you know, and everyone's aware, because it's been such a tender spot for everybody, the trash hauler conversion project is at an end. Waste management will be getting the final trash cans out of the water plant this week. And then we're working to pick up the pieces, because we knew we'd have some fallout, to start picking up those pieces and getting things in place to help that a smoother conversion. One of the things that we have had a number of questions about has been, how are we going to handle recycle during the holidays? So wanted to let it be known that we are going to be putting a slotted dumpster at Public Works during the holiday period. We'll probably set it in November and leave it there until the end of January, so that as we have extra recycle and extra needs, that there's a place to take those and get them hauled away. Because, you know, we can't put things on top of the cans anymore because we're an automated pickup system. And so that's going to be one of the ways we try to remedy people having more recycle than they would normally have. We're working on the audit. As you know, our fiscal year has ended. I'm getting a schedule for the audit. We do have to keep the books open for 60 days at the close of the year before we can start an audit. And I'm waiting to hear back from Zelenkowski Axelrod about when they can be able to start for us. We're doing preliminary planning for Spooktacular and also our election. As you know, we do have an election this year in October. So we are working on that as well. Just wanted to thank our Public Works team they worked really hard. I know that it's part of their job, and I realize it's part of their job, but at the same time, their dedication and hard work, that's not part of the job. That comes from the people. So that's all I have. Looking forward to a really good fiscal year 23-24.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I'd say there's a mayor's report, but we don't have the mayor here. So, did he give you anything other than what you have already spoken about?
I don't know if you'd want to mention the training in advanced education the elected body got at MML.
Well, I think Emily
Yeah. I
can
was
speak a
planning-
little better
I was
on
planning
that.
to. But
Please.
Commissioner Braun gets to go first for her report. Oh, okay. Yes, I wanted to include this in my commissioner report that we attended the Maryland Municipal League conference, and it was in Ocean City the last week of June, and there are a lot of classes that you can take to expand your knowledge for municipal government, and I took a lot of the core classes. I think every core class that was offered. I'm pretty sure, Judy, you were in them with me. So we learned about risk management and I'm blanking because I know I'm being recorded, but risk management and the structure of government and other very important topics like employment issues, and there were some general sessions, and there was a keynote speech by our governor, and I think that we had a great time, and we definitely enjoyed being together, I think. So that's it.
Okay. All right, we'll go into the commissioner's comments. Commissioner Braun?
I have no report.
Commissioner Kleiner, do you want to add anything else in now?
I wanted to add my thanks to Judy and her team, and to Josh and the Public Works team. I know that the trash changeover, the trash hauler train changeover was a lot of work and a lot of overtime. So wanted to thank you all for a very good job. And also, I didn't get to mention it last time, but Augie and I had the honor of being a part of the ribbon cutting for the Inside Scoop, and we wish them the very best.
They have great snowballs, trust me. Okay, I guess that brings it to me. The problems that are starting to come up a little bit with people's comments about the way we're doing our development, I just need to clear the air on something, okay? The two developments we have currently on the books have been here, one, since before I was a commissioner in 2005, which is Stevens Preserve. The other one, the Knutson property, I voted to annex the property in, and we had a developer going in there before the true real estate crash of 2008. And then the moratorium hit. The greatest difference between back then and now is that when a developer comes towards the town, we're willing to work with the developer and come to a mutual agreement on things. Prior to that, the developer told the town what they were going to do, and that's the way business was done. Calvin talked about odd lots. Summerhill is a prime example of it. We have two lots in there that I call the baseball diamond because the lot looks like a home plate. Why in the world? But they could get more lots in that way. I believe the developers have changed, that they would not bring us something like that. And I also believe that the planning and zoning has changed, that when a developer comes before them, they're going to work with them, and it's not going to be an adversarial type of thing. And for the residents to understand, we have to grow. The local businesses would like to see some more residents coming in. It means income for them. You know, over the years, I've listened so many times, boy, we could use Dunkin' Donuts, we could use a Burger King, a Chick-fil-A. Well, the problem is, we don't have the number of residents or number of people going through the town that would make it worthwhile for that business to start. Hopefully, with the development that's going through, we'll be able to start attracting the businesses that we want. You know, we can't have it both ways. We can't want things without having the people to utilize them. So please understand that this board, the Planning and Zoning Board, we're different than we were back in the early 2000s. We care about the direction this town's going to go and not how much money the developer is going to put in their pocket. And that's my final thing. I'm sorry, but it's been a long time building in me over the years. Okay, onward. Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission schedule. Mr. Town Administrator.
The Planning Commission will be meeting on July 17th, next Monday. And the Board of Zoning Appeals, they only meet when there's a need for a variance or special exception, and we have nothing at this time
Okay.
for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Upcoming town events, we have none at this time. Upcoming holidays where the town hall will be closed. Labor Day, Monday, September the 4th, and Columbus Day, Monday, October 9th. This is important. Trash, recycling, and yard waste schedule. Yard waste still stays on Mondays unless it's a Monday holiday, then it's Tuesday. Trash is now picked up on Thursday. Not trash and recycling, but trash. Recycling is picked up on Tuesday. Again, not the way it has been in the past, but recycling only. And they do a fantastic job so far. They were out in my development before 6 o'clock this morning. Okay, holidays recognized by the trash recycling hauler: New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. If there's nothing else to be brought before the board, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor say aye.
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 We're done.
See you later, Jay.